Hey everyone, I want to show you a trick that I've started doing with my Helix. I know that a lot of you are like me, you spend a lot of time playing guitar and you're in your home studio and you got your computer right next to you, you got your power amps and your mixers and all your electronics gear, and it's all just a foot or two away from your guitar pickups. So every time you stop playing and you have a little bit of silence, you hear that static and that interference coming through the pickups of your guitar, and it makes a hum or a static or a little buzz through your speakers, and it gets pretty annoying, especially if you're tracking and you're playing a song with a lot of rests. Every time you hit one of those stops, you hear that static coming through on the track, and you have to go into your DAW and edit the whole track and cut out all the little bits of static in the stops, and it just gets pretty annoying. So I always start all my tones with a noise gate, but I want to show you guys an interesting thing you can do with the Helix so that you don't have to take up one of your processing blocks with that noise gate. The first thing I'm going to show you is the traditional way to put a noise gate in your signal. So I'm just going to choose an empty block here, and I always put it in the first block of the chain. Come down here to the dynamics section, to mono, because you only need mono for a guitar input. I'm going to choose the noise gate. And you see now we have a noise gate in the chain. Down here there's two parameters for a noise gate, threshold and decay. Now there is a level parameter, but that's just a clean volume up and down. It really has nothing to do with the noise gate. With my primary guitar that I play, when I'm on the humbucker pickups, I found that negative 52 dB is the right setting for it, and I'll most of the time leave it on the default setting of 500 milliseconds. Now, if you're going to be playing some quiet passages and things like that, sometimes you may find that the noise gate can cut off the ends of some of your notes, so it's handy to have a foot switch to turn that on and off. Very easy on the Helix. I just touch this switch for a second, and you'll see the screen will ask me, do you want to assign this? Push that button, it says yes, and now this foot switch says noise gate on it. I can turn it on and off. There's three ways to tell if an effect is on and off when you have it on a switch. First way is if it's lit up. See, when it's on, it's lit up. Turn it off, the light turns off. So that's pretty easy. Next thing is if you look at the Scribble Strip here, when it's on, it's nice and bright in the display. If I turn it off, it gets kind of fuzzy. I hope you can kind of see that there. It looks really nice in person, but on the camera sometimes it washes out. Turn it on, bright, off, it's fuzzy. And then on the display, the third way you can tell is when it's on, the noise gate is nice and lit up like this, but when I turn it off, it gets kind of transparent with that line through there. Turn it back on, and you can see that it's lit up. So that's a traditional way to get a noise gate into your Helix, and it works great, sounds great, does everything you need it to do, but we used up one of our processing blocks here. So what I'm going to do, instead of selecting this block, I'm going to select my guitar input. And if I look at this input, this is what's selected, we see it also has a gate with a threshold and a decay. So I can turn that gate on, back the threshold off to negative 52 dB. I'll leave the decay on 500 milliseconds, and we're good to go. Now, if I want to be able to turn this gate on and off with a foot switch, if I touch a foot switch and leave my finger there, you'll see that the display never changes. You have to assign it a different way. So we have this hamburger menu up here. We push that button. Then we see a bunch of options come up. We're going to go into controller assign. And now you can see what parameter do we want to assign. I have the input block selected. I'm going to switch it over to controlling the input gate parameter. I'm going to press this button to learn the controller. And then I'm just going to tap this foot switch. And now you can see it assigned itself to controlling the input gate, which can turn off and on. You can see in the display up here, foot switch 3 is assigned to the input gate. It's a latching controller, and the minimum value is off, the maximum value is on. And that's all the default settings that will come up, and it's exactly what we want. So if I exit this menu by pushing the home button here, we'll be back on the normal screen. You can see that the input gate is turned on right here. When I push the button, turns off. When I push the button again, turns back on. So everything works exactly the same as this other gate button here. And now I can select that noise gate, press my action button right there, and then down here I will just clear the block. And now I have my noise gate on and functioning, but I haven't taken up any of my processing blocks, which gives me more room to run effects or amp sims or whatever I need for my tone. There it is. So I have done extensive A/B testing between the dedicated noise gate block and the noise gate that is on that guitar input block, and I can tell you they're exactly the same. They sound exactly the same. They work exactly the same way. If you tweak the parameters the same, it will give you the exact same function on either one of those blocks. So that is how you can have a noise gate on your input without taking up one of your processing blocks. That's my tip for today, and I hope everyone likes it.